Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation. Now today I'd like to talk to you about how to protect your profits when the market changes direction. For example, we've all seen that the last couple of months the market has pretty much gone straight up, and it was just as easy as throwing a dart at the Wall Street Journal to buy anything, and it went up fairly significantly. But all of a sudden last week the market changed course. In fact, the Dow fell roughly about 700 or 800 points in just about 2 or 3 days. So what you want to do is be able to lock in some of those profits before your nice investment or your trade turns into a loss where you give back everything. For example, this is what happens with most traders. They'll look at a chart like this and say, okay, my strategy says that I should be buying here. So you buy and you see in a couple of days you have a really nice profit. Well, most traders think, well, this is great. I'm a genius. I'm doing fantastic. I'm going to make a ton of money. And then this happens, okay? This actually happened this past week. Well, with the two different things I'm going to be sharing with you today, the step-by-step process, you actually would have bought at the exact same place, but prior to the downward move, I would show you a technique for exiting. You could have exited right here and locked in a 43-point gain in just 2 days. And that was locked in before the market started its downward slide. Now, I know a lot of you may be saying, well, Steve, this sounds pretty complicated. I kind of don't trade that way. I'm kind of just go by the seat of my pants. And I kind of get a feel for things. I don't really know how to follow that type of technical trading. Well, because of this reason alone, was one of the main reasons, I should say, we developed ProTrader Strategies and myself, the PTS-Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that actually teaches traders how to trade. Everything is outlined step by step, and I'm going to share that with you, what this process is, in today's educational webinar. So welcome once again. My name is Steven Primo. I am the president and founder of Specialist Trading. I've been trading for a total of 43 years now. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for not 43, but I was on the floor for 16 years. 9 of those years I was a specialist, so that's where we get the name specialist trading. A specialist was someone on the floor who was making those weird hand signals and yelling back and forth to other traders. Basically, they made markets in roughly about 50 or 60 stocks. That's what I did. Roughly for about 9 years. I made markets during the crash of '87 and the bull market that followed. So I've traded straight up markets. I've traded straight down markets. I made markets during crashes, during straight up environments, sideways markets, markets with no direction at all. So I know what works in terms of consistency in trading these markets, and I know what doesn't work. The trouble is, too many traders spend their hard-earned money on really faulty or inconsistent methods, things that really have not shown the kind of results you're looking for. It's been my experience that the only thing that really works is when you make your own trading decisions. I know most traders are afraid to do that. They feel they don't have enough experience, they don't have enough knowledge, they don't really know that much about the markets. They'd rather let someone do it for them. And this is the way the entire industry is based upon, but unfortunately, most traders, roughly 80 to 85% of all traders, fail. So obviously this isn't working. So what works is being educated, being taught these things that have high levels of consistency, and then making your own decisions, being in charge of your own trading destiny. That's the goal of specialist trading. That's the gap we try to fill. And we have now students over in 115 countries and in every state in the United States. So we must be doing something right. We have tremendous testimonials, and that's what we're here to do, simply to educate you, because this is an educational presentation. You'll see our attention to detail in that today. Now, before we begin, as always, we're first required by law to share this with you. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results going through this two-step process to lock in those profits. But please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now remember, as we said earlier, since we are an educational company, we would like to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter. I post a lot of great free information on a daily basis. Lots of education you can find by following us on Twitter, so you may want to copy our handle right there. I post anything from signals our strategies have generated to little bits of education on how to maneuver the markets to little bits of financial wisdom that I've accumulated along the way. So lots of great free information. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now remember, as I stated, we are a little bit different from other webinars or other companies you may have followed before or have shown some interest in that. Our only goal is simply to educate you. We are first and foremost an educational company. If you come here today thinking I'm going to tell you what I think the market's going to do, or we're going to go back down, or if we bottomed out, we're going to go right back up, or what the best stock is to buy, or what you should be selling right now, you've really come to the wrong place. Remember, the entire industry is based on that notion of you simply giving away your power and let someone else tell you what to do. Please listen to me when I tell you that does not work, okay? I did the same thing 43 years ago when I first started trading, and I was really having a difficult time my first year on the floor. So I did the same thing. I subscribed to all these newsletters. I waited for all the news events to come out, the earnings. I listened to all the guys on TV, probably doing the same things you're doing, and none of it worked for me either. And this was 43 years ago. So it's not going to miraculously all of a sudden turn around and someone knows exactly what you should be buying or selling on a daily basis, or what the perfect stock is, or even what the perfect time frame is. Those are all things you have to find out for yourself. The good news is we provide you with all the different variables and different options to help you make a better decision in that process. So as you see, our goal is not to force feed you signals, not to tell you what the market's going to do, but simply our goal is to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. Now, this same edge turned my trading around some 4 decades ago, and hopefully it will be able to do the same for you. So I'm going to share with you today a two-process technique that I really think will elevate your trading. And since this is a classroom, I want you to ask me as many questions as possible. But please, we don't want to stop for every slide. And also, the city picked a really fine day to, right outside my office window, cut all the trees. So I may, kind of hurry a little bit through this presentation today. And so it's better if we don't stop at every slide, because you may not be able to hear. It gets very loud sometimes. So we're lucky that nothing has happened so far, but maybe in the next 5 or 10 minutes, we may get some loud sawing noises. So I'd like to hurry up this presentation and get to the end to answer any questions you may have. The one thing I want to share with you is that don't worry if it does get a little loud with the saws and with all the cutting outside by the city. Don't worry, we will send each and every one of you a link to this recording, okay? So please, if you have a question, wait till the very end. And by the way, each and every one of you will be getting a copy of this presentation. All right, let us begin today's presentation. And remember, in order to protect your profits, you must follow a simple 2-step process, okay? The first part of that process is obviously we want to have an edge. We want to be able to make a decision that's going to give us an edge in trading the markets. Well, one of our most popular, as well as our most, I would say, consistent edges is a new tool we have. So first, what you want to do is apply the PTS-XT Extreme Trend Indicator. This is a new tool. It's our most popular tool right now. We have testimonials around from students around the world who are using this in any market or time frame, and they're getting tremendous results using this to define whether they should be buying or selling. And I'll show you how this works in just a few seconds. So that's the first step of the process. The second step, well, before we do that, if you're asking what the PTS-XT is, remember, it's a proprietary indicator designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. So that's the basis for this tool. Now, the second step in this 2-step process is to apply the range extension exit levels, all right? So what exactly are these? Well, if you're asking what range extensions are, if you've never heard of them, they're a calculated exit method based on price ranges that are automatically generated. So the good news is there's nothing really you have to figure out, because on our platform, the PTS Primo charting platform, all of this is one click away. With one click, you can get the PTS-XT to tell you whether you should be buying or selling. The other one is the exits, okay? Now remember, it's your choice, and we teach you different variables and ways in which to trade it. So we're not going to just say this is a black box just like everything else. It's basically an extreme trend tool giving you solid information based off what the market is doing, not based off what some guy thinks on TV, based off what the market is telling you. And how you want to enter, how you want to exit, how you want to place your stop is entirely up to you. So you're going to be in charge of the trading process, not these simple tools. Okay, so let's begin this step-by-step process of one way to giving you a really good edge in protecting your profits. The first thing you want to do with step 1 is to apply the new PTS-XT indicator. Okay, so let me show you how you would apply this on this older chart of LAD. Okay, so you see a chart like this, and you're wondering for yourself, well, is this in a strong uptrend, or is this kind of topping out? Is it overbought, or how do I look at this? Let's look at the translator, which is the PTS-XT. On our platform, you would just simply click on the PTS-XT Extreme Trend Tool tab. You'll see this drop-down menu. Click on Highlight Signal. That's going to tell you whether there is a signal being established right now due to this indicator. And if you see this highlighted signal, such as this, where around the bar you see it highlighted yellow, that is telling you, according to this really extremely sensitive tool, that most likely a strong uptrend is about to begin. Now, in the course, we teach you different ways to enter, all right? You can enter the next day. You can place a limit. You can enter at the close of that day. You can, enter a lot of different ways to enter. So remember, you're ultimately going to decide for you how to enter, and you're going to decide for yourself even if you want to enter or not. But let's just say we buy on the close of the first yellow colored block bar. This is the simplest way to trade this. So step 2 would tell us just to simply buy on the close of that bar, all right? So at the close, we get long. Now, the next thing we want to do is, as we see the trade unfold, we see that there are more bars coming along in the following week, and they continue to be highlighted with that yellow kind of block. That's just telling us, even though we had some down days and even though we really haven't progressed too much, the really sensitive tool is still telling us that most likely an extreme trend is about to take place. So you're really not losing that much. Nothing really is happening for where you entered. So here's how we're going to define how to exit and to protect our profits if and when this extreme trend takes place. What you want to do is go to step 3, which is click on our platform, the top bottom 25% signal arrows. Okay, so what's this going to do? Well, this is a tool that automatically defines bars that close in the top or bottom of their range. This is a great directional tool for the short-term trend. We're going to use it in a different aspect. So once you click this on our platform, you'll see the drop-down menu appear. All you have to do is click on signal arrows. And as you can see, these are the arrows of the bars that close, in this case, in the top 25%. Okay? All right, so what you want to do is you want to take the very first bar that generated an arrow below it. Now, it could have been this one, it could have been this one, but it so happened to be the very first bar that we got long, that we bought. So what you want to do is double click on the first highlighted signal arrow. Now a small box will appear. You just click on extension exits. That's it. Okay, so double click on the first arrow that appears in that block. You'll see this little menu appear. Click on extension exits, and now you have your levels of exiting. Okay, now this whole process right now took a couple of minutes for me to explain to you. Once you understand it on our platform, you've used it a number of times, it probably takes less than 5 seconds to unfold. It's that simple, okay? But I wanted to walk it through with you. Now, these are the different exit levels that the range extension indicator has produced for us and generated. So here's the way you would use this. Here are the different options. For example, we've bought right here. If we wanted to get in and out quickly, all right, we would take the first level and exit for a nice profit. If we wanted to have a better risk-reward ratio, if we wanted to make twice roughly what we're risking, well, we would get out here. And if we wanted to get out 3 times what we're risking, we would get out here. Now, the fourth level, that is the fourth and final level, that's where you get the most bang for your buck. Now, there are also different ways to trade it. You could scale out a little of your position, a quarter of your position, another third quarter, and then finally everything here. Or once it trades at this level, you could move your stop wherever it is to unchanged. And as it goes to the different levels, then you move your stop to each level. And then ultimately, we suggest that you exit everything at the fourth and final level. Now, someone would say, well, why? Why can't we just, why doesn't the platform just keep creating these levels as it goes higher and higher? Well, here's the deal. As we see this trade unfold, we see that a couple of weeks later, we have a very nice profit. You would have exited, let's say, at the fourth and final level for a nice little gain of 30 points. And someone would say, well, why do I have to exit there? Why can't I just keep going up these levels? Because we have found out that usually when price gets up to that fourth and final level, that's when the trend changes. So you see how this happened right here? That's the secret of locking in gains. Now, does this happen 100% of the time? No, there will be instances where it'll go higher and keep going. But the majority of times, since I've been using this for decades, usually you'll see either a stop or an entirely different trend change at the fourth level. So I would suggest that, at least when you're doing this in the beginning, to exit your position entirely at the fourth and final level. Okay, so that's the process. That's how you can have a really nice plan in place to hold on to your profits, okay? So let's see some recent PTS-XT signals. These all happened within the last month or so. Some happened within the last week. Okay, so this is in Microsoft. All right, so here's our first block bar right here. Let's say we bought on the close, and we're just going to show you one style. Okay, there are dozens of ways to trade this. Remember, we share with you all the different variables. It's up to you to decide. All right, this is not a black box. This is not someone telling you you buy here, you sell here. We're just sharing with you one of the different variables. So you would have bought, if you decided to use this plan, on this first bar right here, okay? You bought at the close of this day. And then you see you're waiting for the first bar to close in the top 25%, and that's this one right here with the upper green arrow. So you would double click that, click on range extension exits, and these would appear. All right, so these are our 4 different levels. Let's just say, for all intents and purposes, from now on, our plan is we're going to exit at the 4th level with all of these examples. We want the most bang for our buck. We want to get the most profit, okay? Even though it's not guaranteed they'll all get there, we feel that the market is really strong and there's a good chance that they will reach the 4th and final level. And we'll continue to raise our stop as we lock in profits. So look what happens 2 days later. We got up to that 4th level. Now we exited, and we exited towards the high. But some would say, well, Steve, this is just a 6-point gain here. I mean, I think this thing is ultimately going to go much higher. You may be right, but remember, as we suggest, many times the trend will change, and you want to lock in something. Even though it's only 6 points, look what happened later on, okay? If you had held on and waited for the first week in September, just this past week, you would have given back all of your gains. So now, at these points, you could be saying to yourself, well, maybe I'll get back in, or wow, maybe it was a good thing I got out at that 4th and final level, because I don't really think I want to buy this anymore. So that's the secret to locking in gains. You have to, even though if it doesn't seem like a lot, if these range extensions are giving you the 4th and final exit level, that's a real high probability exit. It works the same way to the downside as well. This was in mid-August in a POR, okay? Here's our first bar that was colored reddish orange. So you would have done the exact opposite here. On the close of this bar, you would have sold. Okay, you could have sold the puts, or if you wanted to short the stock, it's up to you. Now you had to wait a couple of days for the first bar to close in the bottom 25%. Remember, since we're selling, we're looking for bars now that close in the bottom, and there's our arrow. We would double click that on, and here's the range extensions, all right? Since we're trading the plan where we exit at the 4th and final one, well, guess what? In 3 days, we made 5 points. Now, some would say, well, gosh, I only made 5 points. That's not a lot. Well, if you held on, you would have given a lot of that back and maybe only had a 2 or 3 point gain. So it's always best, as we suggest, to get out at the 4th and final exit point, whether you're long or short, regardless how many points it is. All right, here's another example in NTRA. All right, this was in mid-August. We had a really nice buy signal here. In 1 week, we made 13 points. That's not a bad little trade, okay? And look what's happened since then. Absolutely nothing. So this was a good choice to get out at the 4th and final exit because the stock has basically gone sideways and just drifted lower. So you see how the trend changes when we get up to that 4th level? This is the essence of locking in profits when the market changes directions. Here's another one in Etsy, ETSY. Okay, the stock was starting to go up. At this point, the extreme trend indicator generated a yellow block around the bar. So we would have bought right here on the close of this. Even though someone would have said, but Steve, it's already gone up 3 days in a row. That's okay. It's indicating that it's going to go higher. And then 3 days later, you had a nice 17-point gain. Now we suggest exiting right here at the 4th final exit. It hasn't gone down. So I'm sure most students would say, especially beginning students, why did I exit? It's still holding firm. Well, sure, it took a little while, but look what ultimately happened. You would have given back all your profits if you held on. As we look at a downward signal, this was in DAO, this was in August coming into September. We had a sell signal originally generated in the middle of August, okay? When the market was going straight up, this was generating a sell signal, okay? You would have sold here or bought the puts. Here are the 4 exits based on that first down arrow. Had you exited on the 4th and final one, that's a nice 10-point gain you would have made, okay? Another example in Apple, okay? This is a pretty current example in Apple right here. We had a buy signal coming into August. Here's the very first block bar that was outlined yellow. You would have purchased at the end of that day. You had a up arrow created by the top bottom 25%. So you double click that on, click on range extensions, and they automatically appear. So you'll know this in advance, even before you enter into the trade. You'll know where these exit levels are, okay? You can know this 5 minutes before the market closes. You can decide for yourself if it's worth it to take the trade or not. So you would have entered, and in a couple of weeks coming into the end of August, that's a nice 23-point gain. And look where we got out. You would have gotten out right at the very top here. I think it made it by a couple of ticks before it headed lower. So that was a nice 23-point profit. So most students at this point would say, boy, I love this tool, Steve. This is great. I finally found a plan that works for me and that's able to capture and lock in some nice profits. Okay, so this is where I started getting all these testimonials saying they love our teaching and they love how we help them. And then a couple of days later, Apple goes right back up. And then I start getting the emails saying, Steve, how come this got me out so soon? How come I didn't hold on to it? Because it's going back up. I say, listen, even though it's not guaranteed, many times at the fourth level, the trend will change. So at this point, it's a little bit too early, but as we see coming into September, what would have happened if you had held on? Most likely you would have given back all of your profit or a good portion of it. So this is why we always suggest, even though it may not appear in the beginning that you're getting out at the top, our role as traders is not to sell at the very top and not to buy at the very bottom. I've been trading for over 4 decades, and I know very few traders who are able to do that consistently. The traders who are able to consistently trade are the ones who don't care about buying at the exact low and selling at the exact high. They just want to get into that nice upward trend if they're long and sell at that nice downward trend if they're short. They don't care about getting in at the top or the bottom. That's the way you should be trading, okay? Just to take a nice gain, get in when it's going in your direction, and then get out before the trend changes. As we look at TGT, okay, this was coming into August. We were in the first block bar right here, so you could have purchased the stock right on this lower downward day. Nothing much happened for a week. In fact, every day you would have clicked on the top bottom 25%. You didn't get an arrow yet, so there was nowhere to establish where you were going to exit. Until this day right here, you would have double clicked that, and here are the exit levels, okay? Now, sometimes we get lucky because as you can see, it's starting to go in our direction. We've got a nice profit locked in, but we haven't reached the extended area yet until we gap up right here, all right? So on that gap opening, you would have, if you had a limit right here, you would have exited at the opening of the day and made a nice 26-point gain in about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, once again, it didn't close there. In fact, it closed much higher. So most traders who have been trading for a relatively short time who get greedy would say, how come I didn't sell at the top? It's not about that. It's about locking in profits because we know as experienced traders that anything can happen. And what would have happened if you had held on? You would have given back a good portion of that profit. Let's look at VIR. Now, this is a trade that is actually still in play because we haven't exited this yet. On the 25th of August, we have a reddish orange block around this bar. So here was your indication to sell on the close. And we have a red arrow for the top bottom 25%. So you just double click that and it would automatically generate the 4 exit levels, okay? As we see, the trade has been unfolding in our favor. So far, we've had 14-point profit, but it's not locked in. Here is our exit right here at 27.60. I took this snapshot before today's opening, so I don't know if it's traded, it's gone down there, or if it's gone the opposite direction. But this trade is not locked in. You may want to watch this, okay? Here's the opening chart we shared in the beginning of today's presentation. Let's go through the process and show you how you could have locked in that nice profitable gain. Okay, let's say you've been watching this stock. You're interested in it, and you're trading with the new PTS-XT Extreme Trend Tool. So you're very excited, so you're watching it, and it's about 5 minutes before the close of the day. So you click on the PTS-XT tab right here, click it on. In the drop-down menu, click on Highlighted Signal, and guess what? It's highlighted yellow. That's telling you that the very extreme trend tool, how it's so sensitive, is picking up that there's most likely going to be a strong move to the upside. And someone looking at this would say, how can you tell that? I mean, the market closed down, the stock closed down on its low. But that's a great buying opportunity according to this tool because it's very sensitive in reading what the market wants to do. Now, it's your choice whether you want to take it or not. We're not telling you to do this, and you can decide for yourself how you want to get in. For example, some of our students say, well, Steve, I'd like a little bit more confirmation. I'll wait 2 or 3 days to see if I get in. Some students will say, well, Steve, I'll wait for it to trade above this high here. Other students will say, I'll put a lower limit somewhere down here. None are better than the other. It's just what makes you feel comfortable. Remember, our goal is simply to provide you with these different options and variables. It's your decision on how you want to apply them. So let's just say we're trading the plan where we got in at the close. It's 5 minutes before the close, you buy, let's say 100 shares of the market, okay? All right. Now, as the trade unfolds, we see the very next day, well, it kind of bounced up a little bit. Now, we want to make sure it closed in the top 25%. That way we can determine where the exits are. So we click on top bottom 25% tab right here. In the drop-down menu, click on signal arrows to see where the arrows are. And yes, there's a little green arrow below that. So I can use that arrow to generate the exit levels. All I have to do is double click that on, double click, and I'll see in the small little menu here, I'll click on range extension exits, and they'll automatically appear for me. So since I'm trading the plan that wants to get as most bang for its buck, I'll place a limit to exit right here at 258.64. All right. Now we have stop placements in place. We teach that in the course. So you don't have to worry that we're not trading blind here. We have risk management in place. Okay, so we simply wait for the trade to unfold, and guess what? In one day, it reaches our level. So we exited with a nice one-day profit of, or 2 days, I should say, of 43 points. That's not a bad little trade, right? Once again, the new traders who really like to get greedy would be saying, yeah, but Steve, I didn't exit at the top. It went higher. How come I didn't exit at the very high? Well, this is the main reason why you didn't exit at the very high, because look what happened the next week. You see, an experienced, mature trader takes the profits, follows the plan, and says, thank you very much, and is grateful for having a nice profit and moving on to the next setup. The immature, more of a gambling mindset, says, how come I didn't get out the top? How come I didn't buy more? How come I didn't, exit, at the very top? How come it didn't happen in one day? Why did it have to wait 2 or 3 days? See, as an experienced trader, we don't have a gambling mindset. We're just looking to capture some profits, and we get in and get out, okay? This is how this entire process unfolded. This just happened this past week. All right, let's look at W day, all right? Same process. We have our first bar here outlined yellow. We could have bought on the close, and it happened to generate a top-bottom 25% arrow. So we click that on, click on range extensions, and here are different exit levels. So if we wanted to use the plan where we exit everything up here, we place a limit, okay? Now we've almost reached there in a week or so. We have a really nice trade here. It gapped up, and we exited on the opening with a nice 48-point gain. This was coming into last week, and then look what happened, okay? Had we not exited there and waited for more profits, we would have given everything back. Remember, the title of today's presentation is how to lock in those profits, how to capture those profits when the market decides to change. All right, here's a downward signal that happened actually a couple of weeks ago in QDEL. All right, off this first bar here, colored reddish orange, and there's a red arrow, so we double click that and it gives us the range extensions. In 3 days, we would have exited with a nice 90-point gain. Most people say, how does this indicator know this? How did it know that? It doesn't predict. There's no predictive levels in this. It's just, we're just giving you different options and different benchmarks to take advantage of. Now, some of our students would have liked to get out here, or maybe some students said, listen, I'm getting out on this day. There's nothing wrong with any one of those decisions. The only thing that's wrong is when you let someone make your own decision for you. Now, even though this was a downward signal, we still suggest getting out at the fourth and final exit, because look what happened to the market. It never really went any lower than that, okay? Now, here's a good way to apply this if you're not really going to be trading this per se with each individual stock, but you like to use it as a market identification tool. For example, here's a buy signal that was generated on the 12th of August in the QQQs, okay? A yellow block was formed around that day. So even if you don't trade the QQQs, you could have said, you know what, if this is saying that there's going to be an extreme uptrend in the QQQs, most likely there's going to be an uptrend in the NASDAQ. So I could use that maybe to buy options. Maybe there was a stock I was interested in that was in the NASDAQ 100, whatever. We don't have to trade the ETF. We can use it as a directional tool. And as we see, we can still get the same exit level. So we can say the rally is going to come up to roughly about this level in the market. As we see what happened coming into September, We got right up here for 23 points. You would have exited, and that was a 450, nearly a 500-point gain in the Dow. Now, at this point, if these tools are telling you it's no longer wise to be long, don't you think that could have helped you with the sell-off we had last week? Okay, even though the market went up a couple of more days, how would you have liked to have been long this last week the entire way down? Because you would have given back all your profits. So the point we're trying to make is that you can use this on ETFs, on different sectors, to give you an idea of what they're doing. You don't actually have to trade the ETF or the sector or the index. Here's a really good example on Zoom. Okay, we know that Zoom has been going straight up tremendously, but it's funny because on August the 18th, well before the big extended run-up, the PTS-XT indicator generated a buy signal. So on the close of that day, you could have purchased it, okay, maybe an option, and said, okay, listen, we're buying this roughly around 280 or so. Let's exit at 326.90. So you place a limit to get out. You're all excited because you think you're going to exit the next day, and look at that nice gap up there. A nice 50-point gain in just about 2 weeks, okay? Now, once again, most people say, how do you guys do this? Do you follow what's the news announcements or the earnings or anything? No, there's absolutely no reason, in our opinion, to follow those things. Remember, we never listen to outside sources. That's why most traders fail, by relying on someone or something else to tell them what the stock or the market's going to do. Now, that can be an indicator. It can be what's called an earnings result. It can be some guy on TV or in a chat room. What we do is just provide you with what this tool is saying the market's going to do, based on the market, not based on what some guy's saying on a chat room. And then we give you different variables to trade it. So you can decide whether you want to trade it or not, or how you want to trade it. So ultimately, you are in charge. Using this one plan, you could have made nice 50 points in a couple of weeks. And look what happened after that. Had you not exited, you would have given back a lot of your profit. Now, let's look at some other markets and other time frames, because obviously not everyone just trades stocks. So if you're an E-mini trader, here's a 30-minute chart of the E-minis. The E-minis are starting to go up. You apply the PTS-XT, and you see this last bar was outlined yellow, so that's a buy signal. Once again, you could have bought on the close of that 30-minute bar. As you see it go up, you click on the top bottom 25% tool, and here's your first up arrow. Double click that on to get the range extensions, and here are your exit levels. So you could have placed a limit right up here on this 30-minute time frame. You see how we got there the next day for a nice 115-point gain. That's over $5,500 per contract, okay? Not saying you would have made that, but we're just sharing with you this is an example of how this works. And you see how once we got there, how we kind of just stalled for the next, 7 or 8 hours. Now, what if you trade currency pairs? Well, here's an example in the Canadian dollar, all right? Here was a sell signal, a sell block. Here was the red arrow. We double-click that on to generate the exit levels. We place a limit to cover our position to buy down here. And in about 2 or 3 weeks, we covered for a nice nearly 400 pip gain. All right, that's close to $4,000 per unit. And look what happened once again. With currency pairs, it still stopped at the fourth and final exit, and look at the trend. It started to change. So this is why we say always take advantage. Now, as the markets get very difficult to trade, as we saw this last week, a lot of traders like to move into commodities. Here's a chart of live cattle, a weekly chart. Same concept applies to the upside, to the downside. It makes absolutely no difference what market you're trading. I know a lot of students say, do I have to trade stocks? No, you can trade any market, any time frame. Okay, so let's recap. I'm sorry I'm rushing kind of long because I know these saws and hammers are going to start up in the next 5 minutes, so I want you to take advantage of this great offer we have. The first thing you want to do is apply the PTS-XT. It's our brand new tool. We've just announced it in this last year, and we're already getting rave results, rave testimonials from our students. It's a proprietary indicator designed to announce in advance when a strong trend is just about to begin. And the way it announces that is by creating that little block or that little color block around a bar. When you see that first block, that's a high probability signal that there's going to be a big, strong move in that direction. Now, in the course, we share with you dozens of ways in which to trade it. You don't have to get in on that first block. There's other ways you can trade it. You can place limits. You can get in the next day. But it's a great, great tool. So you want to first apply that as your edge. Now, the next thing you want to do, and the step 2 of the process, is to apply the range extensions. This is going to ensure that you have a plan in place to lock in those profits just in case the market changes directions the way it did this past week. So the range extensions are a calculated exit method based on price ranges that is automatically generated. The good news is that this is all one click away on our platform. There's absolutely nothing you need to do. You saw how simple it is. You just have to click on either the PTS-XT or click on the top bottom 25% to generate the range extensions. So my question to you is, why wait any longer for success? We're almost at the end of this year. We really only have 3 or 4 months left. You owe it to yourself to become a consistent trader. Take advantage of this great, great offer we have for all the students and potential students, I should say, attending today's class. We have a special discount. Here's our offer. We're going to throw in the PTS-XT Extreme Trend. That's the way you can trade in the express lane, where you get right in when the market is going to go on these extreme trends. You're going to be able to apply this to any market, any time frame, any direction. You can trade with your current strategy. So you don't have to trade one of our different techniques for entering or exiting. You can actually just apply your strategy whenever you see these zones appear, okay? Or you can build a strategy based off this. We show you different ways to do that. It'll give you the confidence to pull the trigger, and you can also apply this for market timing, the way we showed with the QQQs. And remember, everything is one click away on our platform. So the greatest and easiest way to apply this is by obviously applying it on our platform, because it announces all of this in advance. So here's the great offer we're going to throw in as well. 12 months entirely free when you sign up for the course, okay? You're going to get 12 months of the platform entirely free. And there's so much more actually applied on our platform as well. You'll also get the enhanced buy sell line. That's the overall trend identifier. You'll get our strength of trend tool, which will tell you whether a trend is starting to run out of gas or not. You'll get our tracker tool, which I talked about in previous webinars, which is an entirely different way to trade the PTS-XT. And this also comes with personalized tech support. Now, one of the best things about this is that you'll be able to scan with our signal scanner on a nightly basis for these setups. So it's not like you have to search through the entire S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100 on a nightly basis. You can scan for nightly signals that have just been generated that day, and you can decide for yourself. Or if you want to, 5 minutes before the close, you can scan for the list of new signals, and you can decide for yourself going down that list which ones you may want to buy or sell on the close. That's how simple all this is. You're going to get 12 months free, and everything is one click away. Remember, trade in the express lane. This is our brand new tool that is getting rave reviews. It's our most popular tool. In fact, here's what this would normally cost you. It would cost you close to $5,000, the extreme trend. That's how popular and that's how valuable this is. But we're going to slash that price. Today, we're going to offer it for only $44.95. You're going to save $500, but new customers will also get that 12 months PTS platform for free. So you're going to save 10% off the price. This is a great, great offer. And on top of that, if $44.95 is still too difficult for you to come up with, Pro Trader Strategies would be happy to work with you in establishing a payment plan. So if you want to, you can just put down a small deposit and still be up and running. So you don't have to come up with $44.95 if you don't want to. Remember, it's official. The PTS-XT is now the most popular trading tool amongst our students. So join the ranks of the students who have turned their trading around, who've started to become consistent, closing out the year strong. All right? One last thing I didn't mention. I'll be there with you every step of the way. Along with becoming a student of mine, you'll also get my personal email address. You can contact me whenever you'd like with questions, and I will be there to answer your questions immediately. Anything pertaining to trading with this, or maybe just to check your work to see if you're in line with what the rules are stating. So this is a great, great deal. Here's how to take advantage of this. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. I developed the platform with them. They're in charge of all the discounts, all of the payment plans. I would suggest, if you're interested, calling them at 310-598-6677. And there's absolutely no obligation. They can give you more information about establishing a payment plan. All right? Obviously, if you just want to pay it off in full, it would be $44.95, and you get the 12 months of the platform. But if you weren't able to come up with that lump sum, you could still be up and running as early as today. You could just talk to them with them, and they could establish a payment plan, and you could pay a small monthly fee every month, and you'd still be a student of mine as early as today, okay? Remember, there's absolutely no obligation. They have trained trading consultants manning the phones right now. They'd be more than happy to answer any question you may have. Now, that link you see at the very bottom is the link that will take you to the sign-up page. There's more information on that, and we've posted a live link on the chat box in the far right-hand corner, okay? I promised I would save and reserve the last portion for any questions, and I apologize. I kind of rushed through this presentation today because, as I stated, the city, once again, for some reason, decided to cut all the trees outside my office window, and it can get kind of noisy, so I wanted to hurry through this process. First question is stating, Steve, can we trade currency pairs? Yes, I showed, intraday currency pairs. Sure. I showed you an intraday chart of the E-mini futures, but you can also apply an intraday chart of currency pairs. We have a lot of students, especially in Europe, using this technique on 10, 15-minute charts, even 4-hour charts of the currency pairs. So yes, it absolutely makes no difference, okay? Someone's asking, what if I already have the PTS Primo charting platform? Oh, okay, there's no problem with that. I would still suggest calling ProTrader Strategies if you're serious, and they can work with you. They're very flexible. They would be more than happy to offer you something or give you a discount possibly, or some type of deal because you're already a member of the platform. So once again, there's no obligation. They would be more than happy to answer any question concerning that, okay? Let's see, Steve, so this works intraday. Can we trade this with options? Well, remember, you can enter and trade any way you like. Our job here is not to say this is only an option-only class, or this is only for stocks, or this is only for futures. Our job as educators is simply to educate you and show you these high probability entry and exit points. How you decide to enter into the market is entirely up to you. So yes, a lot of our students take these signals and buy the calls. Now they decide how far out or how long of a time frame they want to do it, but it's entirely up to them. Our job is just to teach you how to identify these high probability areas. So if you decide to take advantage of these high probability areas and buy the stock, buy the future, buy the ETF, buy the option calls or a spread, that's entirely up to you, okay? Okay, good questions. As we head into the close, I just want to say thanks for joining us today. Remember, we only have a good 3 or 4 months left in 2020. All right? I'm almost positive that the majority of you in today's class, we have a good number here today, are nowhere near they thought they would be getting the type of results they promised themselves at the beginning of the year. Finish out 2020 strong, okay? Finish out strong with a lot of confidence to go into 2021, to be able to pull that trigger and for the first time feel like you are in charge of your trading destiny, okay? Come on board, contact ProTrader Strategies, ask about those payment plans, or if you want, you can pay that one lump sum. But remember, I'll be there with you every step of the way, answering any questions that you may have, okay? Thank you so much for attending today. I really hope you learned a little something about how this process worked and how simple it is to capture those profits once you have a nice profitable trade. As we take one last look at our disclaimer, I just want to thank you once again for taking time out of your Wednesday, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the PTS-XT Extreme Trend class. Thanks a lot. Have a great Wednesday. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.